You're listening to Nothing's Off the Table, the podcast where no subject is too taboo to discuss. Now, please welcome your hosts, Andy Barker and Lou Del Pree. What's up? Apparently, we're having some technical difficulties here. Gibby can't get on. Lou, do me a favor, please, sir. Guide us through. Never mind. There we go. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have our special guest, and let's just bring him in right now.
Yeah,
there he is, the man.
I'm not the most technological guy, dude. So
that's okay.
Anyway, it's asking for me to go to YouTube channels and all these other things, and so I'm sitting here panicking with my wife and my dog. So
no need to panic, man.
If my kids had been here, it'd have been no problem. But you got to
Right.
remember, this stuff sometimes is still challenging for a guy like me. So
Hey.
what's going on, brother?
It's challenging for me. Period. Regardless. There's a reason why they call them smartphones and not me, a smart guy.
But you got to have a smart guy operating, and that sometimes isn't always me. So
that's right. Wait, what? Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce the one, the only Gibby, Greg Gibby Gibson, Major League umpire for almost as many years as I spent in the Navy, right?
Well, 24.
Oh no, I got you. I got you beat a little bit.
I think you got me beat a little bit.
A little bit, but it ain't about me. It's about you tonight. And first of all, dude, thanks for coming on and doing this, man.
Is that Squints?
Yeah, that's right.
Squints.
That's right.
I forgot that. I forgot that's what they call them. You know,
when you're around umpires, you get a nickname, you get tagged, you're done. So
yeah. Hey, it's the same in the air crew. You know, you get your flight name generated by a computer, right? Or you can pick it yourself, run through a computer, or you can make a mistake.
There you go.
Anyway, I had one of my flight officers in the battalion. His name was his call sign was Skippy. So I had to ask. I'm like, Skippy, what? Why? Well, he was a Harrier pilot.
Oh,
and he dropped. They were doing some practice runs. He dropped a dummy bomb, and it didn't. He just skipped all across into a dumpster.
Yep, that'll get you a nickname.
Oh yeah, for sure. But no, God, man, this is so awesome that you're on.
Yeah.
We can talk baseball. We can talk about anything, really. So the way we like to run this, Gibby, is it's not an interview. It's three dudes hanging around talking story.
Well,
so
I want to hear yours more than I want to hear mine. I'll tell you that. So,
well, you know what? You took the words right out of my mouth because I want to hear yours.
Exactly.
So I'm going to ask you one question, then we'll get into story time.
Sure.
Did you work with Kaiser ever? I mean, I know you knew him, but
so funny story. I mean, I don't know if the first time I met Ken Kaiser, I was trying to think. I was an A-ball. Yeah, I was an A-ball, going from A-ball to AA. And he had years ago, I can't remember who played down spring training games down in Lauderdale. I think it was the Orioles. And so we had a day off. We went down to a game. And, Kaiser's holding, we go in, and I can't remember who I was working because Kenny kind of overran everything. He was holding court. And this was after the game was over and everything. And Kenny says, come on, we're going to go eat and blah, 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 blah. And the next thing you know, he goes, oh, by the way, meet so-and-so. He's a federal judge. Kenny had a federal judge, a U.S. federal judge, not just any federal judge. It was, a U.S. federal judge. That says something. Oh, he was carrying Kenny's gear around, and it was like, Kenny had an umpire caddy. Yeah, the first time I ever met the man, that's what he did, and it was hilarious. And then one time he was in, we were in Rochester, and he was on a day off, and we met him for lunch. There was a place, I can't remember, Blaze Donato used to take us when we were in AAA, and Kenny showed up and had lunch, and so, yeah, that was, he was one of those characters that was larger in life. Yeah, he was a funny guy. I mean, but that I never worked with him. When I got, the National League took a liking to me, and I worked, I was I got kind of labeled a National League guy. We would, when it was still two leagues in spring training, now I got sent to a lot of games sometimes where if you had a National League team playing an American League team, if the American League team was at home, you'd have 2 American, at least 1 national, or 2 American, 3 American, and 1. You always had one or the other. They at least had 1 umpire from both leagues. So whoever the home team was usually had more umpires. And if it was convenient for where all the other senior umpires were, like Tampa, you'd have Richie Garcia, Vic Vitaggio. So it wasn't. I some of the guys worked with those guys like that, but I was always on the East Coast of Florida. So I'm trying to. I worked with Jim McKean. He was an American League umpire, and I think I worked a couple games with Dan Morrison. Man, I'm showing my age now because the guys don't even know my name now, let alone know some of those names. So I was somewhere the other day, and they somebody said, "Who's that working?" I said, "I have no idea." We were at a restaurant, and it was a young man I had never met, and it was like, wow. I mean, talk about outdated quick.
Yeah.
As you guys know, 6 months from the date you retire, you're no longer relevant. So
Pretty much.
it's okay. It's okay. So
I think when I retired, they were so happy. It didn't take 6 months. It was
yeah.
more like
Oh
about
yeah.
6 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some of the guys were like, "Oh, don't go," but I'm anyway. You know what? I'm glad I'm out. Let the young guys have it. It's pretty awesome. I've been to dinner with my wife. I'm here on the deck. We've got a screened in gazebo on our deck, and so me and the dog, we're hanging out. Yeah, so we're hanging out, and just and I'm enjoying life. I get to
The
do
American dream.
yeah, I get to do a lot of what I want to do now. Come up, be with you guys in Carlisle, things like that.
Yeah.
So it's pretty awesome. It's pretty
Heck
awesome.
yeah. So I'm sure you've seen the video by now, obviously.
Yes. I kind of want to know your thoughts.
Well, okay, I will tell you my thoughts.
Explain to people what video you're talking about.
The video that.
So
Go ahead, Gibby.
let me jump in on you, Doc. So this was my second year at the camp, and last year at the Wounded Warrior Umpire Camp in Carlisle, it made such an impression on me. I mean, for me, it was a life-changing event. It really, honestly and truly was. Uh, Doc was. I don't know if Doc was there when I left, but I literally fell apart. To be with that group of men, and to be you guys, to be with the veterans, to be with guys that have sacrificed so much, and I feel like I've not done anything. I've really not done anything compared to being in that room with that group of men, and here they're walking around just wanting to, just to be a part of a little bit of my life. I wanted to be a part of their life, and it was life changing. When I say it, I absolutely mean it was life changing for me. And so one of the things about it is Rocky. Sorry, it's my dog barking at a bird.
Get him.
If you're never there, perception is reality. Seeing is believing. And I was like, we got to do something to put together a video, a professional quality video to kind of get the message out. Because for those of you tuning in the podcast, I mean, when the guys come, the veterans come, some of the instructors come, they pick up the tab for free. Everything is free. And so raising money every year is a huge thing because, we want guys to come and honestly and truly, it saves lives. Well, so a friend of mine, Matt Pridemore, was actually friends with Kenny Kaiser's son, John. And John is actually a big time Hollywood producer. He has produced Love Island, Dancing with the Stars, Bachelor in Paradise. I mean, he's a big time Hollywood producer, and he just happened to be home at the right time. And he came to Carlisle this year with a film crew and put together a first class, Hollywood. I guess you could call it an infomercial, call it a mini documentary, and we were very proud of it. And so I've had a kind of busy week, and I haven't really got to talk to Major on the phone yet. But we want to get this out to businesses. We want to get this out to corporate sponsors. because I absolutely believe in everything that what Wounded Warrior Umpire Camp is doing. It saves lives, hands down. I know Doc tells his story. And one of the things that, it's a very, very proud group. I know you guys don't want sympathy. You guys don't want anybody feeling sorry for you. It was a job you did. But, you got to really get in and tell the story. And got to really get in and tell about how it saves lives, how it changes lives, how it gives guys a purpose. And for me to be a little part of that, I mean, it's absolutely awesome. I mean, other than my church, there's not anything else that I really want to dedicate my time to, that I want to dedicate, uh, you know, my resources, my money. I, we did a lot to make this happen, and I'm grateful for the opportunity for that, to do that. One of the things that I say, and one of the things that I said last year, and one of the things I always say, that group of men and women is America's best. That group of individuals that have sacrificed, they are the best America has to offer. My father-in-law was a very, very proud Vietnam veteran. I mean, and he was so, he would have been so thrilled. He was so proud to be an Army vet, especially a Vietnam veteran. But there's a guy in my church, and I'm going to bring Will next year. Will is a Marine. I got corrected on that real quick. I made the mistake of saying in front of a whole group of Marines, I introduced one of the guys as a former Marine, and I got basically chastised. I thought I was going to get a cat of nine tails. But Will is a Marine that was actually wounded in combat. And I sent the video to Will, and Will was like, wow. He said, you don't know how much I struggled with, mental health issues. And, um, there was just a lot of things that he said, and he said, man, I really want to go. And I said, done deal. I'm bringing Will up next year. I'm going to make him umpire too. So he's one of those guys that thinks it's an easy job. So I'm going to bring him up, but the video, we're going to get it out. I think it's on Facebook now. Is it on Facebook now, Doc?
It is. And we may just do a little screening here this evening, if that's all
If
right
you
with
can
everyone.
pull it up, because, it's something that I've had a talk with, I've had discussion with the Cincinnati Reds about being a sponsor. I've had, some of the baseball people. And one of the things about it is, when people really see, it helps raise money. And yeah, we want to raise money because we want to save lives. We want to keep guys that have issues, that have, Doc, you can attest to this better than I can, that just need to be a part of a group. That was one of the things that I miss about the job, and that's what I really enjoyed about the camp is, the camaraderie, the fraternity, being with a group of guys. And you know, there are so many similarities between the umpire world and the military world. It's unreal. I never got shot at, but I'm sure if some of them would have had a gun, they would have shot at me. But it's just an incredible, incredible organization. Doc, Joe, uh, Rob, Kyle, Hanson, just across there, I really got to know him. Santa, just the guys that I really, I talked to Joe the other night. I think I talked to Joe on Monday night. We talked about, 10, 15 minutes. I've talked to Major a couple times while we were finalizing everything on the video, but, it's kind of nice to have that. I get a text every now and then here from Doc, or Rob texted me the other night. He was at the Giants game. Laz Diaz got him tickets, and, Laz and I, same year together and everything. So, just being with that group of guys is just absolutely awesome. Absolutely awesome. So, those of you tuning in the podcast, if you're a supporter of veterans, which I am, this is one of the most worthwhile causes. And to go there and see it, I mean, it is hands down the best thing. A group, that I want to be with. It's worth my time. It's worth my resources. It's worth my effort to give back. So, and I mean that. I mean, it's not um, and it's kind of funny. So the guys, when you leave, they give you pins. You guys give out pins and stuff like that. And uh, Santa this year was like, "Hey, you need to get a pin to give out next year." And I'm like, "Well, I'll work on that." But my wife decorates our dining room table for the 4th of July with all my military pins that I've been given.
Oh, really?
You know, I really, I take that, man, I take that to heart. I had some uncles that served. And so, you know, when I was coming out of high school, Vietnam was still fresh in the minds of my parents. And I mentioned the military, and it was like, no. You know, in the 80s, you know, my parents had friends, and you know, Vietnam was still very, very fresh. That's how old I am, Doc. Vietnam was still fresh in everyone's mind. And, you know, military was kind of, no. And then I was actually at umpire school when the first Desert Storm happened in 91. And we had 3 or 4 guys in our class that were in the reserves that had to leave. They got called and they had to go. And, you know, when you're 22, you don't think about things like that. And I wish, looking back on that, I'd have got those guys' names and addresses and kept up with them somehow and found out how they did. Because, you know, I got to chase my dream and they got called away. So maybe
they got called
listening.
away, so you could chase your dream.
That's right.
That's the important part of it. You know, you said you're old, and you are. However,
yep.
I'm gonna tell on myself a little bit. I actually have 2 national defense ribbons.
Wow.
Yeah, because I was yeah, but I was actually in both theaters. So I was deployed during Desert Shield, Desert Storm.
Wow.
Yeah, easy.
Are you saying my first national defense is any less merited as yours, seeing as how I got it the last month it was authorized 6 years after the war ended?
Yeah,
is that what you're trying to say?
That's pretty much exactly what I'm trying to say. No, but funny story about you know, Gibby, last year when I met you, I'd heard when I got to camp, I heard, oh, well, we got a major league umpire coming, blah, 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 you know, and everybody's all excited. And I said, well, who is it? And they're like, you know, Gibby Gibson. I'm like, oh, cool, man. I'd never heard of the guy. So then when I got to meet you, you know, and I found out what all the buzz was about, I'm like, oh, really? No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. No, I told you when we had our conversation, we had a really good conversation, and when I just felt connected to you right off the bat. You're such a down to earth dude, man, and I want to personally thank you for everything that you've done for us. You know, Greg Gibson coming,
my privilege and my honor.
Greg Gibson coming to camp meant a lot to a lot of people. It didn't mean shit to me until I got to meet you. But now that I've met you, I consider you a brother, a friend.
Absolutely.
You know, I'd do anything for you. But I want to thank you personally for, you know, coming there, and it means a lot to these guys. It really does. You know,
yes.
The knowledge that you have to share with everyone. I'm gonna be perfectly honest with you. The only reason I went to umpire camp is because a buddy of ours, Matthew Curran, talked me into going. I had no desire whatsoever to do any kind of umpiring. In fact, I thought I'm just going to go and I'll take a week vacation and have fun with it, you know. And when I got there,
it gets started usually.
Oh my God, I was bit by the bug. I got bit hard. And I love it now. But I had a nice train of thought. I was going to share something with you, and it just went bye-bye. But since it went bye-bye, why don't what do you say we play the video for everyone?
Yeah.
All right.
Absolutely.
Let's do it. We'll go let's see.
Yeah, you're not tech savvy.
I started drifting down.
No way I could
depression because
there
was some time I was left alone in the house, and I just took out my pistol and I put it to my head, and probably had about 3 pounds of a 5-pound trigger pulled. So I knew I was in a lot of trouble.
On the move! Call it! On the move!
I've been blown up, shot at, and in a helicopter crash. And nothing out of all those are compared to looking down the barrel of a 12-year-old's fastball the first time I got behind that plate.
So, you Come on, runner.
You're out. There you go. When I retired from the Marine Corps, my last tour of duty was with the Wounded Warrior Battalion at Camp Lejeune. And we had a lot of groups that came in and wanted to take veterans out and play golf. They wanted to take them on a fishing trip. And then it's done in a week. But what we wanted to do is create a vocation. And it started out as, we've trained umpires before. Now we're just going to bring veterans in. And we focused more on wounded veterans.
They ask me, what's the hardest sport to officiate? And I always say baseball, because you always have to make a call. Y'all chose the hardest sport to officiate.
The curriculum started out as a basic umpire school. If you had 5 days with somebody who was so green that didn't know anything about baseball, what would you want them to know?
My best friend is the instructor here, and he recommended the program.
You, second base. Yes, sir.
And my wife and all of my family saw a tremendous just difference in me when I came home. I was a lot more confident in myself.
Great job, Jeffrey.
I was not depressed anymore. I was enjoying things in my life again.
We give them free airfare. We give them free lodging. We give them about $1,500 worth of equipment to start their career as an umpire for free.
After a few years of taking my umpiring back home seriously, a lot of fellow umpires had said you need to go to a camp. I couldn't afford one. That's the truth. So these guys were very nice to invite.
Go through what we talked about real quick before you get some sleep, but that's how you build on it and get better. I'd say one of the things about this program, it saves lives. You know, when you talk about the suicide rate amongst our veterans, it's ridiculous.
I myself have struggled with anxiety to the point of I've even been committed to a facility, and the pills, the counseling, it just didn't work for me.
You know, one of the first questions when I got down here was, we still got everybody? And they still got everybody.
Every single day that I came to camp, I cried. And it wasn't crying because I felt remorse, it was crying because I finally felt connected.
They were just trying to fight the symptoms. And the only way they could fight them was with medication. And when you fight that with medication, you just feel numb. You don't even feel love. All right, fellas, welcome. This is SDI time. We built a playbook to where we could have this thing called SDI time, or senior drill instructor time. Whatever's said in here stays in here. Do you like to withdraw a lot? And are you the isolator? Are you the cynic?
I moved out of my house when I was 15. My parents were in and out of jail. And that's the big thing that prompted me to join the Army, was just to get the hell out of there.
The SDI time is what makes this camp extremely unique. It's a chance for the connecting and the healing to either end or begin.
On my first deployment, I was injured, so that caused a lot of internal conflict. But I'm grateful I found this umpiring stuff, because it's going to give me a purpose again.
What it comes down to is funding. Everything that goes into this camp costs close to $100,000. That's one thing that we struggle with every year in order to take care of these veterans.
I was so bad off, I had a pistol in my head. And out of the blue, I got a call from somebody in this organization.
The hair on my neck started to stand up, and I felt an overwhelming sense of I need to reach out.
So thankfully did. So I wouldn't be here. So.
That's what true healing starts from.
This is a worthwhile cause, but it comes at a cost. It comes at a price. These guys served, they did their job, and we want to give back, and we want to make this program go, because these guys have overcome so much, and it's America's best.
When you come here, you're part of a huge family.
Let me get you back in the ring, bud.
Let's unite to save lives and combat veteran suicide head on. The Wounded Warrior Umpire Academy isn't just a program, it's a lifeline. Donate now and join me in making a real difference for our veterans.
Wow.
It's a great video. It's my first time seeing it. You know, I don't have Facebook.
Really? You hadn't seen it?
No, I don't. So, Gibby, I used to work at the jail, and I got rid of all my social media when I went to the jail. Because, you know, a guy like me, you know, I'm attractive to both sexes. It's a blessing and a curse. So I couldn't have anyone stalking me.
Well, I won't go there on that one, brother. But anyway, no. It was, I think it's done real well. I know it highlights Doc a lot, but it tells Doc's story. But, and I know Doc don't like the attention, but, you know, Doc is only one of about, what, 35, 40 stories every year at the camp. And that's the amazing thing is, and I think other veterans, you know, they need to hear that you're not the only one going through this. You know, there's a lot of people there's a lot of veterans, you know, one of the things I say, the suicide rate amongst veterans in our country is ridiculous. I mean, it's, you know, that's where, you know, it's like, okay, we want to take care of so many things that we shouldn't be taking care of, and we don't take care of the things in our country we should. And it's just one of those things where we need to do a better job as a nation to take care of our veterans, and especially our combat wounded veterans. So, you know, it's the first time I watched that, showed it to my wife. My wife sat and was in absolute tears. You know, a lot of people that watch it, I've shared it a little bit, and people are like, we've used up our budget for this year, but next year, yeah, you're on the docket. And, you know, again, seeing is believing, you know. And one of the things about it that I love is, you know, I got to kind of tell Joe and Major, I don't show up to stand there and just, you know, I want to get in and teach, and I want to get in and help, and I want to, you know, sometimes you've got instructors fighting over, you know, spots, and I'm like, this year I did a little bit better. I kind of just stayed to the outskirts, and I'd slip stuff in guys' ears and say this and say that. And it was really cool. So, I mean, I enjoyed it. I'll be back again next year, wherever it's at.
Well,
so
I can't wait to have you back. Since you asked earlier what my thoughts were on the video, I would tell you this, and I've told my story. I don't know how many times at this point, and you know, it's always tough to tell it, but man, watching it really, it hit me pretty hard.
It's emotional.
Yeah.
It's emotional.
Joe, it's in the feels.
It does, man.
Yeah. But, you know, and that's what I wanted that's what I wanted. I told John, what you got to capture. You got to capture that feeling that I got from being there. And I think John did a really good job of doing that. And, you know, I hope that thing, a lot of people see it. I hope it gets out there. You know, this is where all you tech guys, you act like you're not tech guys. You know, you put that out there on YouTube, you put that out, yeah, you're looking around. You put that out there and you get people, you know, seeing what it is that everyone does and what everybody's involved in. And I just think it's awesome. It's awesome.
I tell you what, that Kaiser guy, he's pretty all right for a big Hollywood producer type, isn't he?
Well, one of the things about Major League umpires, you know, he got kind of brought up the right way. You know, he saw his dad. We all go out of our way for veterans. One of the things that I did the last few years that I worked, and especially in San Diego, if I knew there was a group, I remember one night there was a group of World War II veterans in the stands in San Diego, and I went into the stands and gave out baseballs to them. And shook their hand in between innings. They opened up the gate. They were right there as we walk on. They opened up the gate. I went right through it real quick, handed them baseballs, shook their hand. I wasn't going to do it through a screen. You know, I got to the point the last few years of my career, if we had World War II veterans, any veteran for that matter, but especially World War II veterans, I went out of my way to go shake their hands and meet them because, you know, they were termed the greatest generation. And, you know, to meet World War II veterans and to meet any veteran for that fact. But, you know, I really went out of my way because, you know, very, very soon in my lifetime, there will be no more. Um, I remember as a kid or my dad or hearing the stories about when there were no longer any World War One veterans. And very, very soon, you got to think about how many years ago that has been, and we will not have any more World War II veterans. So
It's
I go meet all of them I can.
yeah. Time is time flies so quickly. Like you were talking about the eras and things. I mean, just the other day I was watching a movie and they were like, yeah, he's an OIF vet. He's gone rogue. And I was like, when it used to be the Vietnam vet, right? Like Rambo was,
Right.
and all the badasses were Vietnam vets.
Yeah.
And I'm watching this movie and they're going like, he's an OEF vet. And I'm like, oh no, I was there. They're not like that.
When you talk about Vietnam, back to my father-in-law, basically what got my father-in-law was Agent Orange.
I know.
Agent Orange.
Yes.
My father-in-law is a casualty of the Vietnam War that will never be counted.
Right.
And at the time he was at the Edwards Cancer Center here in Huntington, West Virginia, he wasn't the only Vietnam veteran there. There were him and four others.
Wait a minute. You're in Huntington, West Virginia?
I am 20 minutes from Huntington, West Virginia.
Where?
In a little town called Catlettsburg, right across the river. Catlettsburg, Kentucky.
Oh boy. So my dad
why?
my dad's from Huntington. And my grandparents.
Hey.
Yeah, we're probably related. It's probably why we get along so well.
No, we never crossed the river. You all might have tried, but we fired the shot back and wouldn't let it happen. So.
Well,
No.
my grandparents lived in Barbersville.
Okay.
So,
I know where that's, yeah.
I'm telling you, we're related.
Now,
what's up, cousin?
Mountaineers are not going to let, briar hoppers don't let mountaineers come across the river. Ain't happening. There was kind of a feud over that, if you remember, many, many years ago.
It's
that
depending
was
on what
Hatfield
part.
McCoys.
Yeah, depending on what part you go up in there, it's still kind of going on a little bit.
Well, yeah, it's it's kind of funny. It's been a while, but like when I first got into baseball years ago, Hunter Wendelstead sent me a FedEx package. It took 4 days to get here. He still laughs about that because I'm about. But the cool thing is, I'm 2 hours from about everything. I'm 2 hours from Lexington, 2 hours to Cincinnati, 2 hours to Columbus. I'm 6 hours to Charlotte, 6 hours to Nashville. So we like our peace and quiet here. I come home when I was an active umpire, I could literally come home and disappear, and that was nice. Literally, very, very nice.
Yeah.
So my sons, I did a lot with them, and I could come home and be dad and disappear, and it was really, really nice. So
we'll talk more about that offline.
I have a question. Can we shift gears more positively? And what I'd like to ask, I'm going to bring up a comment that was made by, I forget, right, to bring up a comment that I can't even source. Anyway, there's a pitcher who had written a book when I was stationed in Boston, so circa 2014 timeframe, retired pitcher. And they're asking him what stadium, is the worst for you to pitch in. And he says, Boston, the Red Sox stadium. He says that's the worst because the fans are so close. He said you throw a bad pitch and they'll let you know. So my question to you is, what is the worst stadium to be behind the plate in?
Philadelphia.
And why?
Well, it's a family show.
Understood.
It's not. I will say this much: it is not the
really.
city of brotherly love. It is a dirty, nasty, mean town. How they call that place the city of brotherly love is beyond me.
It's the only town to have a bomb dropped on it by the mayor.
Oh. But back to Boston, they literally are on top of you.
That's what he said. He said if you make a mistake, they let you know. He said you can hear it in stereo.
I got in trouble. I can't remember if it was 2006 or 2007. We were in Boston, and right in the middle of the game, I turned around because it was like the 5th or 6th inning. And I turned around and I said, from you to you, get rid of them. And it was 5 guys behind home plate.
Ejected.
And I went over. Oh, yeah, I ejected 5 fans. And it was like, I went over to security guy, said, from that guy to that guy. Well, they get security in there and they start marching them out. I got a standing ovation from the fans because they were just they're so close. I could hear the language and it was off. I mean, come on. If you want to yell something or yell at me or yell that's fine. But to cuss like they were cussing and the language they were using and everything. So the next day I get a phone call. It would have been okay if you'd have done it in between innings, but you stopped the game to. So I had to pay the piper a little bit on that one. That was fine, but it was but yeah, I turned around Fenway and said, from you to you, get rid of them. And everybody's kind of like, and it was like the umpire. It's like the whole. You can't throw him out of. Yeah, I did. Yeah, you're leaving. But Philadelphia, I could not stand working there. Just awful town. Just yeah, it was bad. When I first started going to Fenway, I hated it. Being from Eastern Kentucky and a hillbilly, when you go up there with those people, when I was in the minor leagues, I was in the Eastern League, and my partner was from Chicago. He's a Polak, Jeff Kowalczyk. And it was funny. We would go in a restaurant, and Jeff would interpret what the waitress or waiter said, and Jeff would interpret back to them. It was like a different language because my accent was so bad when I was, first getting into baseball. As I got away from here, it went away a little bit, but it was, everybody says, well, are you from Texas? I'm like, no, Minnesota. That gets a lot of times. But and so Boston people, they were even worse than Connecticut people.
Yeah.
Sorry, Jim Reynolds. Well,
let me ask his follow-up for you.
I really enjoyed working at Boston last few years of my career.
No, that's awesome to hear. But you bring up a great point, and we spoke briefly at camp, and you mentioned again here, and I'm glad you did because I thought what maybe you meant as a passing comment was so fascinating to me. Umpire got fined. So you guys have an entire system of account. So can you talk a little bit about that for like people that are watching that are like, these umpires are insane. They do whatever they want. Or no there's really an accountability system. There's
one of the things when I got into the whole change of the umpires, let's back up to 1997, my first call up. Not every game was on television. I think 2002 or 2003 was the last year I had a game on radio only, and it was in Milwaukee. I remember it because we actually looked at each other in the locker room and said, we're not on TV today. This may be the last time in our careers we're not on television. Because when I came to the big leagues, not every game was on television. You had the Wednesday night, you had Saturday, Sunday. You didn't have, every team now has their own network or their own, their game being. They got.
Well, what does that mean if it's on radio? What's the difference? Like, because I don't know the difference.
They weren't really concerned as much about the breaks in between innings. With every game being on television, there's now. When I first came up, we had a stopwatch. We controlled it on the field. Now, they control it with a clock in the stadium. And if you go early on that clock, man, I'm going to tell you something. You can't get out of your plate gear, and they're calling, going, "Hey, you cut us 5 seconds. You cut us 6 seconds. You better go when that thing hits 0." If a game starts at 7:05, it doesn't start at 7:04, and it doesn't start at 7:06. If you start a game at 7:08, they're calling you saying, "Hey, what's going on?" Because that's 3 minutes of wasted time. So,
I see.
Back to the accountability thing. So when I got hired, you only had 2 supervisors. The game's changed. As time went on, we had some guys have to retire early, and they realized that they needed more. Sandy Alderson was the guy that brought in, we need more accountability. So they had a system they put together where we had evaluators and supervisors. And we went from having 2 people to having 17 people. I think now there's like 40. Wow. The irritating, and I can say this now I'm retired. The irritating thing that I don't like is a lot of people that have never done my job have a lot of input, and that's not right. If you walked in my shoes or you walked between the white lines, I'm going to listen to you. If you were a player, a manager, and especially another umpire, but the accountability system with the technology now. After every game, every Major League plate umpire gets their plate score from Major League Baseball. not scorecards as they have out there on the social media today. So scorecards is not correct. And I'm not trying to make excuses for the guys. The system, one of the gripes that I had is the system that Major League Baseball has in play should line up with what they show on television and with what they show on social media. And it does not. Because and I'll just use an example. When Angel Hernandez said he shot a 98 and scorecards had him shooting a 91, I can guarantee you, because I've had games like that, scorecards would have me at an 89 and Major League Baseball would have me at a 97. You know, there is the 2-inch buffer, you know, because that was implemented by Major League Baseball, not the umpires. Major League Baseball was the ones that wanted that 2-inch buffer around home plate, because the bottom line is this: if you don't call strikes, you have a very boring game. And one of the complaints about baseball is there's not enough action, hence the pitch clock. We knew the pitch clock was coming several years ago. I never umpired with the pitch clock, but one of the gripes about the game was it was boring. It was, you know, there was no action. How many, you know, they had times of it being 10, 12, 15 minutes without the ball even being put in play. You know, so, and it's like this: if you don't call strikes, guys don't want to swing. So they, instead of creating a 19-inch plate, we kept the traditional 17-inch plate, just put a buffer on it. So they want to blast the guys when they shoot a 92 or 93. But I will tell you this: I went into a series. They switched me with a crew, and I'm not going to say the crew's name, but I know the first night one guy shot a 99, and the next guy, the guy shot at like a 98.6. And their games was 3:15 and 3:30. I went back there on the third day of the series, shot a 96 and had a 2:15 or 2:30. You know, I got them swinging. You know, and one of the things that I would tell, you know, there was a young catcher for the Reds that came out my last year. He said, "Hey Greg, that pitch you balled in the top of the second." I said, "Stop it right there." He looked at me, did this, and he said, "Well, I just figured you want to know." I said, "No, I don't want to know, and I don't care." I said, "I'm going to tell you why. They trained me to be consistent. They didn't train me to be perfect. All these guys are out here trying to shoot the daylights out of this machine. That will not be me. And it's not that I'm trying to cheat. It's how I got trained to do the job. I got trained to be consistent." I remember Tony La Russa screaming at me in 1998 as a call-up umpire, "What you start with in the first, you finish with in the ninth." And he was right. That game, I called a pitch I shouldn't have called. And that's where my training came into play. It wasn't, I got trained by what the players expected, not what I thought I should do. The umpires nowadays, you know, they get graded on their calls. They get graded on the number of missed calls they have. We have guys that if you do something, say something, there's microphones everywhere. If you say something you shouldn't say, you get fined. I had a situation my last year. It wasn't right. I got fined for it. Guy lied. I had no proof. But you know, I took it and I ate it and wrote my check. But I got fined twice in my career. I was one of the guys that wasn't looking to, you know, it's kind of funny. Doc, you mentioned it. You didn't even know who I was when I got to camp, and that's kind of the way I liked it. You know, I did the job for a long time and over 20 years. And, you know, the first 10 years I was in the league, everybody back home still thought I was working at the bank. I didn't make a big deal out of it and, you know, go, "Hey, you know, look at me. I'm, you know, that's never been me."
Yeah.
But, you know, that's the thing about it. When you do your job and you do it well, they see you, they don't hear you, you go away and you can live a nice, quiet life. But, you know, I was blessed beyond belief to have the job. I was blessed to have the opportunities and the games. You know, you talk about social media. My sons are now starting. It was this year was the 10-year anniversary of Clayton Kershaw's no-hit game. And if Hanley Ramirez had not made an error in the top of the seventh, I would have 2 perfect games. I was behind the plate for Randy Johnson, May 18th, 2004. And I think it was June 16th or May 16th, 2014. I was behind the plate, and Kershaw, we get to the ninth inning and he has to run over to first base and cover first base. And he had, you know, he's got to run. And so I go back out, you know, after they retire the runner, I hand him a new baseball and I said, "Hey, take your time, catch your breath. This is bigger than both of us. Bigger." I said, "This is bigger than me, and take your time." And it was like, that was he put that on social media what I said, and I'd kind of forgotten about it, to be honest with you. But the things I got to be a part of, the events, the history, man, it was awesome. But our umpires held to an accountability. Absolutely. You know who holds an umpire to accountable more than anyone? The
Ooh,
umpire.
yeah.
The umpire. Because one thing about it, and I would tell young umpires this, you are a major league umpire. Act like it. We take a lot of pride in wearing that tag. We take a lot of pride in being called. I took a lot of pride in being called a National League umpire. I mean, I knew the guys that had walked in front of me, and I wore that tag proudly, and I was going to live up to it. And I would tell guys, when you get your job, now go master your craft. Hold yourself accountable more than anything. The league, the teams, the players, hold yourself to a higher standard than what anybody else requires of you. Does everyone do that? No, but I know that I did. I held myself, guys would still laugh at me because I'd get upset at myself about something that I messed up on the field. I had a hard time sleeping that night because I expected the best of me every night. There were people's livelihoods on the line. There were people that paid a lot of money to come to those games. One of the things I tell baseball fans is because of you, I got to live my dream. And so I'm so thankful to people that are a fan of the game because, and I wanted to live up and do my best because I did not want to be, you guys all know the names that everybody says, and I did not want to be that. I held myself. So as far as accountability, I held myself to a higher standard than anything the league could ever put on me. And that's just how I operated. I wanted to be, I was not the greatest umpire to ever walk on the field, but I was an A- umpire. I will say that. I worked hard at it. I didn't, there's some guys that I work with that just had unbelievably natural talent. I had to work hard at it. I couldn't take a night off and stand out there and just stare in the stands and look around. And, I learned to really lock in and the nights that I didn't lock in, well, it didn't go so well. So I gave it my best every night because the one thing that I would say to guys, and I think I said this at your camp, there comes a day when you're on that field, they tell you can't wear the uniform anymore. Uh, there comes a day when you don't get to put it back on and walk out there again. And so enjoy every day you get to do it, no matter if it's on a little league field or a big league ball field or wherever it's at. There comes a day when, you don't put the uniform on and go do the job. It's kind of weird for me this year at camp. Um, I wore my big league cover the first day, and then I wore Wounded Warrior stuff because that chapter of my life is closed. The guys that are there now, they have that badge of honor, and I'm proud of them and proud of the guys I worked with. But, I wanted to wear my Wounded Warrior stuff. Yeah, I looked like an umpire. I just wasn't a major league umpire anymore. So, I I've been blessed, guys, been blessed. And then to get to meet you guys, Doc, we got to spend a lot of time last year talking. We didn't get as much this year. And to get to meet Squints, we had a good time. We had an awesome
Yeah.
time. So
I
anyway,
I think you must have said Joe's name 3 times because he popped into the chat room there, and he says,
yeah,
"Gibby, there are all kinds of things you say that people hold on to and live by. You have no
well,
idea the influence and impact you truly make on people." And I couldn't say it any better.
when God gives you a platform, use it. When God gives you a platform to make a change or make a difference, because, today I had a conversation with a guy, and it was, one of my now that I'm in the corporate business world, one of the guys has kind of taken me under his wing. He called me into his office today. We sat down and talked about 45 minutes, and Doug's been absolutely incredible for me in my business life. And so you never know. And it's one of the things that I learned when you get a chance to get a platform to help, when you get a chance to give back, you never know. You never know. So don't waste what God gave you. Don't waste the chances God gives you because, we don't know what tomorrow holds. And live life to the fullest. And boys, I am now. My life for 32 years. It was controlled by a schedule. It was controlled by a lot of other things. But now it's pretty daggone awesome. I got to say, it's pretty awesome. So
Enjoy it because you deserve it.
anyway,
There, something sparked a memory in my mind when you were talking, and you were talking about the history. You knew the guys before you and such.
yeah,
And that's, Lou can back me up on that. In the Marine Corps side of the house, it's a huge thing. You have to know your history, and there's
big
a
time.
very important reason for that. But I got to see maybe a little bit of crew chief Gibby this year.
I know what you're going to tell. Save that one for another time.
All right.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to mention
that young kid didn't know his history, and I let him know it because.
Oh my God.
You know who taught? Real
lesson.
quick before you got my battery's dying. Real quick before we get off here. You know who taught me that? Harry Wendelstead.
Really?
We go into umpire school one year, and Harry goes. It's just the young guys, and I think Randy Marsh and Jerry Lane, and maybe Dana DeMuth, and he goes, "Where's Pelicutis?" And we're all looking at each other like, Pelicutis, yeah, I hired him. He should be here. Where's Pelicutis? He's not here we had 8 a.m. meetings every morning with Harry. And if you showed up at 8 a.m., you were late. Harry
Right.
was a Marine. Harry, Harry went to Parris Island. Harry was a Marine. And, Harry still passed on. So that's why I say he was a Marine. I guess you're still a Marine once you're gone, but Harry is a Marine. And
Understood.
he was on us, for like 2 days. And finally, on the third day, he said, Chris Pelicutis was a National League umpire. And we have a banquet every year. And his name's on the board that he went through Al Summers and umpire school. And he banged his fist on the desk and he said, "Know your blankety blank history." And got up and walked out. And he was pissed. He was mad.
Yeah.
And it was later that day at lunch. He kicked all the, we had at umpire school, we had like 25, we had a lot of big league guys and minor league guys. And they, we had varsity and JV. And I was, at that time, like freshman on the JV team. And so he's got all the JV guys in there and he goes, "Here's why I said that." And Harry laid it out. Know your history. Know the men that walked in front of you. Know about 71 and 72. Know about 79. Know about 84. Know about what the guys did to give you and give you a better life. And that always stuck with me. And so when I get a chance to share that with a young umpire, especially a AA umpire, I let them know real quick. Know the guys that walked in front of you that made some things possible. So, well, guys, I got to get off here because my battery has got about 5%.
All right. Well,
so
Gibby, we super appreciate you coming.
Yes.
We'll get you back. I love talking the stories. The next time Lou and I will share some of our stories for you.
There you go. Yeah. Lou, Squints, good to see you, brother.
No, absolutely, Gibby. Pleasure having you on. Good talking to you, my friend.
Doc, yes, I'll be talking to you sometime. So see you, boys.
Yes, all right. Yep. Take care, Gibby.
Right. Bye-bye.
So real quick, I won't mention any names, but Joe and I were sitting in there. We had a little dinner, I guess. It was for the staff with Gibby and the production crews to meet them, and the minor league guys showed up, and we were talking about John Kaiser, the producer of the video you guys just watched. His dad, as we mentioned earlier, Ken, was a major league umpire, in addition to a professional wrestler earlier in his career. So stories for days. And walked in to introduce him, and he says, "Yeah, this is Ken Kaiser's boy." And the poor kid looked at him like, "Oh, okay, well, I don't know who that is." And I saw the chief in Gibby come out, the Navy chief in Gibby, or the gunny, if you will. Boy, he laid it on this kid, man. And I'm not gonna lie, for about, I don't know, like maybe a microsecond, I almost felt bad. And then the laughing came in and I couldn't help it. Yeah. Like Joe said in the room, he said he had that kid shitting sideways.
That's how it goes, man. But I wish I had a chance to ask him. I wanted to close out with asking him. Give me a moment where the crack of the bat woke you up. Give me one. Tell me one time. Give me one time. Now that you're retired, no, that doesn't matter. Tell me one time where you're like, oh.
I kind of have a feeling that there wasn't a time for him.
I
like
don't know,
that.
man. I think it happens to everybody, but I was gonna say, I was gonna try to get it to go around the room, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I've had one. I'm sure you might have had one, or maybe even more than one. But I mean, it's, just times when you're like looking like.
Just about every game.
I mean, I'm saying like sometimes like the ball fields are so close. Sometimes they'll yell ball on the field, and I'll be looking like somewhere, and then but it was the other field, and then I'll hear the crack of the bat on my field, and I'm like, oh shit.
You get used to that. Even Joe says, "Nah, not him," because he's that kind of guy. I mean, even what he said, he had to work so hard where the other people seem to come natural to him. But
No, I understand, but I don't know, man. There's
I bet when
some
he
things that are
was,
human. There are some things like
I guarantee when he was first coming up.
That's what I'm saying. Like like there's gonna be a time when you're like oh man, like what just happened, right?
Yeah. Normally we have our veterans helping veterans segment.
There was a giant veteran helping veterans segment today.
Exactly. So we are going to forego that for this evening, and
or pinups for vets. There you go. Pinups for vets, so they can use money too.
Yeah, can't we all? I think it was so cool having him on, man.
It was great.
It's great for people to get to see the side of him that we get to see.
And I was glad we were able to show the video too.
Yeah. All right, Joe. Good night, buddy.
Have a good one.
Yeah, I wasn't planning on that. It just kind of
worked
popped in. Yeah. But anyway, we say we wrap it up.
I'm game.
You're gay.
We'll see y'all next week.
Peace out.
You're listening to Nothing's Off the Table with Andy and Lou, an Admiral Media production podcast. All information at the time of recording is mostly accurate.